Tell the truth, Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, who tell the truth. Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benschop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benschop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal them. Who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benschop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop.
Hello, this is attorney Sheldon Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Aleister Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Aleister Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Aleister Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Aleister Collins firm. Contact them at Aleister Collins firm.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Up. It's just 6 minutes after 8 o'clock. It's different time zone for wherever or whichever part of the world you're listening or watching us at this moment. If you're in Guyana, of course, it's 1 hour ahead, so it's 6 minutes after 9 o'clock in Guyana. And good evening to all of you. I know you've missed me for a couple of days, but it's okay. Let's move on. Let's not dwell on who miss who. You miss me. I miss you. We all miss each other. It goes with the territory, right? But the fact is that I'm back, and let's get straight to what's happening in Guyana and possibly other parts of the world. So we celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King's Day the other day. And this is a guy who fought, a civil rights leader who fought with others for a better world and a better America. And, had it not been for these guys who have made the ultimate sacrifices, a lot of us immigrants would not have been enjoying lots of benefits. And when I say immigrants, I mean all immigrants, irrespective of one's ethnicity. And, oftentimes they have a few, like to totally downgrade the participations and the works by others, people like Dr. Martin Luther King, who paved the way for all those others who pretend that they are racist, right? Those very dark-skinned ones who pretend that they are racist. Thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Had it not been for you, maybe, a lot of us would not have been in our basements and other places, attics, renting, one-room renting, and all these things. Look, I'm not knocking at that, but they got a particular in the set of individuals who are basically part of the PPP. They love to downgrade people who live in a basement, who doesn't live in a basement. Who cares where somebody lives? Wherever you live, you live. I'm sure J.R. Crawford would agree with me. It doesn't matter whether you're in an attic, whether you're in a basement, whether you're in a room, wherever it is. I'm sure Wayne Caesar's probably preparing to be on with us down in his basement. I don't know why people take this thing on so seriously. Who cares? Who cares? But some of these PPP guys, they love to ridicule people about who live in basement and who live in basement. Anyways, it's 2023, right? We don't want to dwell on some of these idiotic individuals. Hey, guess what? 100th birth anniversary of this guy. If you can tell me who this guy is, you'll get to visit me in my basement. 1 hour in my basement, probably watching me do this show. But Burnhams, what is it? Burnham, would have celebrated his 100th birth anniversary coming up on the 20th of February. Now, I don't know what the PNC guys, maybe, J.R. Crawford is a PNC. He likes to smile whenever I remind him that he's a PNC. He's a member of the PNC. I don't know what plans they have to celebrate this guy's 100th birth anniversary. 100. He would have been 100 years old. I'm not seeing much of the party stuff, but since I made that post, some of the party, quote unquote, comrades are saying, we have plans, comrades. I say, if you have plans, your plans, do they include members of the wider cross-section, the wider membership of the PNC, or is this just a behind closed door? Oh, we have plans, put up some balloons, and that's it. Just trying to be a little mischievous, right? Good evening and welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benschop. And if they had plans, this is what I would have been doing. I want to hear, and they might run with this because some of them in the leadership bracket of the PNC, they don't like to take ideas from other people. They always believe that they have, I have a better idea. I have a better idea. They don't listen out to your ideas, right? Or your suggestions. And they always have something better. You don't see what it is that they have. Months or years pass and you don't see anything that they have. But here's a suggestion that I'm going to offer them for free. Pro bono. They should have some cricket matches. They should have some basketball games in memory of Forbes Burnham. They should have across the country, not just cricket, not just basketball, but soccer as well, and maybe chess competition. Right? Burnham was a lover of chess, so to speak. Get these sort of things going. Then in all of the party offices across the regions, Have some stuff going, some domino competitions, some chess competitions, some essay competitions, and all these different things, guys. Don't just say, oh, you have some things planned and that's it. And then on the day, you're going to go around by the botanical gardens, and you're going to say something. You're going to dress up and put on something purple. Anyways, look, it's my first night back, right? I might as well behave. Oh, speaking of behaving, look who is the acting president. The acting president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. What has this country gone to? What exactly is happening? Can we have when can we have people who are fit, people who are suitable, people who are respectable to be leaders of our country? Look at this. Look at this. Take a look at this. I'm not even sure that she's a minister. And that's another thing too. You're not a minister. You're not a minister, but you're acting. Somebody can correct me, please. You're not a minister, but you're acting president? You're acting installed president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana? And look, all of you out there, if I forgot to say hello to you guys or good night to you guys, all of you. I'm not going to be calling all of your names or whatever, but Otto Martin wants me to call names. Look, they know who they are in the leadership bracket, always strategizing. And if you want to force me to call Aubrey Norton's name, I'm not going to call names. Don't force me to call names. Good evening to you, Otto. And you know I'm not afraid to call names, right? But look, good of you guys to be listening. And thank you so much for sharing the link and so forth. But look at what this country has gone to. Acting installed president? What sort of, I don't know what's happening. I prefer Otto Martin. I prefer to address Otto Martin as president, acting president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. You know, J.R. Crawford as installed president, well, acting president. Wayne Caesar as acting president. All these other people, Myrna, Grand Myrna, well, I don't, that's a funny name, but yep. I prefer to address these folks as acting president. Marla Alicock, acting president. Keith Evans, acting president. Diane Dugue, right? Acting president. Lily Goliva, acting president. Lynette Nelson, acting president. Kerwin Adams, acting president. Monica Johnson, acting president. Desiree Barrington, acting president. Patricia Kissoon, acting president. I can go on and on and on. Acting president. All of you guys, acting president. Anyways, look, we've got to move on. Vidna Hariprasad, acting president, right? Brenda Casey, acting president. All of these acting presidents. I prefer to call all of you guys acting president, right? Pinky Richmond, acting president. Paula Booker, acting president. Ann Court, acting president. Oswald Elias, acting president. Matthew Dennison, acting president. Desiree Chapman, acting president. Chantal Smith, good evening to you, acting president. I can go on and on. Desiree Simons, acting president. But look who we have to deal with. Just look who we have to deal with. I don't know. Look, if the operator can just remove this thing from the screen, I'd appreciate it. We got to get our guest on. But before we bring our guest on, look what happened. The other day, remember this thing, Aussie Rogers, said to be an activist, right? PBB activist, hustler, right? Woman in Aussie or OZ, whatever, or OZ or Posey Rogers assault case says she settled the matter for $150,000. Now, how much is $150,000? $150,000 is just about 750 US dollars. So while all of us are jumping up and screaming up and, oh, you know, it's an injustice, and she said no amount of money can ever do. What she wants is justice. Lo and behold, according to the newspaper, this woman collected $150,000 and said she done with the matter. Money must have done by now too. $150,000 got all of us jumping up, tinging up for her, and she gone behind we back. She collected $150,000 and she done she money already. Meanwhile, all of us jumping up, hollering justice, 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 justice. This Looney Tune, this Looney Tune, this Looney Tune, Posey, or whatever, Rogers should be brought to justice. He was allowed to leave the country. He allegedly beat this woman up and was allowed to leave the country. This is what is happening in Guyana under the installed, corrupt, racist PPP regime. I noticed somebody saying grocery money. That's not even grocery money. I've done that on Tamarimbal one day. Ask Crawford. Tamarimbal one day at Border Market. Tamarimbal. Crawford, am I correct, man? Tamarimbal money? What's going on, bro? Good evening to both of you.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
You guys are looking so sharp that I'm beginning to get worried now that I am seeing political leaders ahead. I am seeing you guys getting into some politics. Crawford, I don't trust that nice shirt you're wearing. And Caesar, that tie you're wearing. You're going to head back to Guyana. And I don't know what's going on, but you guys are looking sharp. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Crawford,
Mark.
yeah, let's begin right away. What's going on? 150,000 to settle this matter?
Well, the only thing I can grasp from that is, some arm twisting that went on there, and somebody advises take it, or you're gonna get yourself in more hot water.
150,000 Guyana dollars, which is just about, the accountant here is, do the math. 150 Guyana dollars.
750 US, approximately.
Approximately 750 US.
Yes.
Crawford, we spoke about this matter almost every night, calling for justice. And so that this goon who skipped the country, the police didn't do anything to him, beating up this woman allegedly. We saw the video and so forth. Of course, he denied it, even though there's a video. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Quickly, let's move on. Let's move away from that orangutan. Let's deal with other issues. This guy will be celebrating, or would have celebrated, his 100th birth anniversary. What y'all doing to remember this man in y'all party?
Well, I haven't seen any memo on what is planned or anything under consideration. As you know, some folks in this current leadership are always harping about keeping things in house, and it will be dealt with in the inner circle. And that's the foolishness that I don't understand. The party is a public entity, but yet many things are supposedly done in house. And then you reach out to the party members asking them for financial support. How am I going to support an entity that I don't know what is it doing, or what it should be doing, or what is there for the future? And that's where we're making a mistake. A lot of people are getting this notion that political business must be kept under wraps. That is a foolish notion, and that's why we're all misled. And this is not only for the PNC, but it's also for the PPP, because for some strange reason, political leaders are comfortable thinking that the supporters are like animals. Whatever we give them, that's what they have to use, and that's not how it works.
Surely that's not how it works. Well said, Mr. Crawford. But one of the things that I agree that there shouldn't be no private party matter. Everything is private and private. But there are some things that should remain behind closed doors, proper strategies and so forth. And then there, outside of that proper strategy, you inform your support base. You can't have privately have, you claim now that you're having plans to celebrate this man's 100th birth anniversary, but it's just a private plan. What about the general public? The when I say general, the party support base, who may want to support, who may want to be part of that planning, the strategy, and all these sort of different things. They may have ideas too. The wider support base of the party, and to shut these people out, and then believe that those at Congress Place are the only ones who have the plans, and they're the only ones who have the strategies, and they're the only ones who know it all. It's just not going to pan out. Let's get Caesar. Come on, Caesar, give what's due to the public. Your take on Burnham's 100th birth anniversary would have been.
Well, Mark, I must start off by saying that, I am saddened to see the party that Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham birthed is in such turmoil at this moment. We're not even sure about the financial stability of the entity. Hence, I am not sure what kind of celebration they would be doing on behalf of this great man. And I'm not even going to say arguably the greatest president in the history of Guyana thus far. And I cannot foresee right now in the future anyone surpassing him and his accomplishments. So
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Caesar. Sorry.
Yeah, so in general, I'm saddened. This is somebody that we should celebrate every opportunity that we get. We should be celebrating this man. He is genuinely authentic and great. And I am happy that I live in a time to see him manage Guyana.
There are some, and for obvious reasons, ridiculous reasons, there are some who are going to argue otherwise, that he was a dictator, he was this, he was. But look, I was a young boy, and Crawford would know we were all part of mass games and so forth. Those were good things for us young people back then, able to mold us. I'm sure others who are getting up there in age, like us, Otto Martin and others, would attest. Could imagine Otto Martin at mass games and these different things. But and then not only that, Crawford, you remember at Rose Hall there was this Rose Hall Technical Institute. Then there was a Linden Technical Institute. There were technical institutes all over the country for kids who probably didn't want to go off to UG or wherever, who didn't want to be doctors. They can become engineers, they can become plumbers, all these different things. All happened on the Burnham. Look at the Linden-Soesdijk Highway. To this day, it is still there. I believe it probably sometime in 68. That is when that Linden-Soesdijk, I could be wrong with the date, but sometime around then, Linden-Soesdijk Highway, it is still there in existence. The Quarantine Highway on the Burnham, all of the highways that you see, the roads that we're seeing on the Burnham, free education from nursery to university on the Burnham. A lot of these Lagu Bagus, a lot of these Pakus were actually given that opportunity under the very man that they ridicule. But if you're calling him a dictator, look, we have all lived through, or at least most of us, Jagdeo's presidency. Jagdeo's presidency is 100 times worse than some of the things that they are trying to basically describe Burnham as. Jagdeo is the biggest dictator we can ever imagine in Guyana, in terms of corruption, in terms of death squads, in terms of extrajudicial killings, all manner of things under Jagdeo. Let's not forget that. But speaking of roads, and I notice people are already talking about the roads, Linden Highway, Star Major, and these guys. This is what the PBP is now calling roads. This is what the 2 inches. This is what the PBP is calling roads. Take a bite of that, Crawford. Road?
Mark, what we are seeing is a slap job. The people who are building these roads are not knowledgeable. They're not even supposed to be labeled as many of them as contractors. And this is a money-making scheme that is going on. It looks good for a month or two, and then it disintegrates. And I'm seeing that Edgel is talking about, for instance, Region 6, that they want to put 4 lanes on Region 6 road, the main road. Where are the cars going to run? Under somebody's veranda? You could hardly maintain 2 lanes, yet you're going to try to make 4 lanes. When you put 4 car lanes, where are the pedestrians going to walk?
Look, Mr. Crawford, that's good. But these guys, so-called contractors, are not contractors. They're bandits. They're hustlers who are all connected to the PPP. Look at this. This is not even road.
That's what I'm saying. It's a money-making scheme.
Crawford, we don't even do our driveway like this. 2 inches? Is that all these guys? Well, I can understand why everything they're doing 2 inches around the country. 2 inches road? This is not road. I don't know.
No, it's a stop job.
Wait, these guys should be jailed. Edgel should be jailed for this. This is unacceptable. I wouldn't blame the contractors, because the contractors cannot be as corrupt unless they're given the green light by folks like Edgel and them, because this is corruption, Mr. Caesar.
Yeah. Okay, Mark. So what I'm looking at here, and JR said something that the contractors are not smart with what they're doing here. There's no need for the contractors to be smart when the government is the ones who are not smart. All right, first of all, if we're doing these roads, we should be having feasibility studies done, because what I'm looking at here, if I am doing construction and I'm building a house, Mark, and I request about 10 truckloads of sand. By the time those big trucks cross over this here, it's all broken up again. Right? So this is nothing. So when you have these kind of jobs that are being done, and I don't know what's going on with our procurement commission right now, but
fraud. All of it, it's just a waste of time. Fraud.
Right. These things are being procured in the millions, right? But it's not those monies that are being put out there is actually what the contractors are getting. The PPP is pocketing the money of the Guyanese people. This is what's going on here. So all the infrastructure they're talking about is a bundle of nonsense, because you got to put up awnings to stop the big heavy vehicles from coming through. And
these guys, Mr. Caesar, in the PPP, Edgel and these guys are not politicians. They are not policymakers. They have no idea as to how to run a country. They're not visionaries. They are just a bunch of flatfoot hustlers, from Irfan Ali to Jack Dale to Edgel, to all of them are a bunch of hustlers. Look what they're doing. Air fraud. Look at it. That is hustling. This is no road. This is no proper setting together a plan that they're going to get proper sidewalk. They're going to have a proper road, maybe about 7-8 inches or whatever, to give the people, the taxpayers of Guyana, their money's worth. This is beyond slobby job. This is criminal. Not only should the contractors be jailed, Edgel should be jailed. And all who are responsible for this, even from the procurement commission or committee or whatever the heck, whether they still have that or not, they all should be jailed. Mr. Crawford, one more bite of this before we move on, sir. Look at what's happening.
Mark, this behavior must be laid at the feet of the Guyanese people. They are not demanding proper goods and services. And one of the main reason is because we are not a united people. We are too racially divided and politically divided. And for some reason, we are not demanding that we have proper goods and services from any government that's in office. And it's all because we're too selfish as a people. All we're concerned about is what we have individually. We are more concerned about how big or how beautiful or how fancy our cars or our homes are. We are not worried about what's the impression or what's the growth for our communities. And the politician knows that we're so divided and we're so selfish and greedy as a people that anything that they put in front of us, we're going to accept once we think it benefits us and not the community. And that's how it is. And we, as long as we are divided and we are so selfish as a people, the politicians are going to run away with any slapdash work, and
we're seeing that
we will have to live with it.
We are seeing it, my friend. Every day we are seeing it. The incompetence of this installed regime, the corruption. But I oftentimes try to question this racism thing from the standpoint that somebody from Monrepo, I'm just using Monrepo as an example, it could be anywhere else, darker than me, darker than you, darker than Caesar, is going to look at me in the eyes and make a racial remark against me.
You know what it is, right?
Because in the context, when you look at the history, those very people, whether they're Madras, whatever, they are considered black people too.
Right.
They are black. And these folks in Guyana who, this racism thing, it is more ignorance. Ignorance.
Right. That's what it is. Because it's all about your hair. One hair is supposedly straight and the other is twist. And that's the ignorance.
I have seen curly hair Indians. I have seen nappy hair Indians. Like inhabitants of India who speak aapke naam kya hai, mera zindagi the pyar ke zindagi the bhai, right? Aapke naam kya hai, nahi mere baat ke zindagi the, right? They speak Hindi. Go to India right now. 5 million plus persons who have curly hair are actually Indians born in India hundreds of years ago. I don't know. So those
are the CDs.
These little rascals in Guyana who love to, and we sometimes describe them as, they're not racist, they're ignorant of their history because they are black people too. They are black. They're blacker than even some of us. And if you look at if you check out how our African brothers and sisters in some parts of Africa, how they worship, how they tie their head, the women tie their head, how they beat their drums, how they dance. There are similarities right there. In the 1930s, early 1900s, there were this group known in Guyana as Fola. Fola actually came from Nigeria. It is a tribe, and Fola is actually, that tribe. They practice
Muslim,
Islam, and these different things. So I don't know. Racism, no. Ignorance, yes. Mr. Caesar.
Mark,
go ahead. Somebody's breaking up there.
Okay, I think JR may have froze. JR, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, he's there, but you go ahead. That's
okay,
JR's natural face.
All right. So Mark, when you look at the posture and you look at the behavior of some of the Indo-Guyanese in Guyana, I am appalled, but at the same time, I don't lay all the blame at their feet. And I'll tell you why. Because those Indo-Guyanese have been empowered by the imperialists, you understand me, to treat black people the way that they're treating them. All right? When it comes to crimes against humanity, when it comes to the people of African descent, the world is always silent. They're always silent. Look at the ambassadors during our elections. Syrian linked everybody up at Ashman Building. Who's the new ambassador to the UK? Jane Miller. She found it convenient to speak on our voters list. But yet, the young Afro-Guyanese woman being dragged through the mud in Moka, a woman, a female. These two ambassadors are female. None of them found it convenient to say anything. Can people look and see the disparity here? Can't we all look and see what's going on here? And besides that, she's dragged through the mud by an Afro-Guyanese police.
The truth is, Mr. Caesar, had this woman been any other than what she is here, had it been an Indian woman, a Portuguese woman, an indigenous woman, lots of women's organizations as well would have been condemning this action. But I have not seen any women's organizations condemn this action. None whatsoever. And that tells a story, exactly what you're saying here. The ambassadors are quiet for obvious reasons, and we know the reasons why. Let's move on. Let's move on, gentlemen. We're looking at the time. Look what has returned to Guyana. 3 execution-style killings in a month. No charges. Welcome back to the PPP. Welcome back to the PPP. Jack Dale sitting there as installed vice president. Welcome back to the PPP. It looks as though these guys only they only survive through blood. That's the PPP. Mr. Crawford, your take on the return of extrajudicial killings.
Mark, that wasn't a surprise to me. As history would have it, this is what happens when you have a rogue administration. If the people who are in charge of the country's affairs are not themselves proper citizens, their behavior trickles down to the common person, because as the government do, so does the citizens. And we shouldn't be surprised. If you're going to create that grouping where one group is better than the other, this is one of the ways to show it. And this is one of the ways to get things done, to create that division. And again, it comes right back to the people. And rolling back to the previous topic, where that young lady was in the mud, the international imperialist people, they do not see a certain race as economically valuable to them. So why do they have to stand up for them? Not until you have mass assemble or you make certain moves are they going to come forward. And it's a sad state when Africans around the world are not deemed to be on the same level as other people or as important, because they are measured by their economic value to society. And it's perceived that the African heritage, they are not financially there. And that's one of the reasons why the respect factor, if you look at an African descendant person, once they've made it to a certain point, people are going to show them that kind of respect, at least in front of their faces.
We got that indeed. It's 40 minutes after 9 o'clock in beautiful Guyana, 40 minutes Eastern Standard Time in the US, and it's morning in England. So good morning to you guys here as well. Mr. Crawford, moving away from that for a moment, I want to, because this seemed to be a recent development under the PPP regime, where they are evicting persons from their lands, persons who have been occupying those lands for 30, 40, 20 odd years. Some of those lands are actually ancestral lands. And the wickedness by the PPP regime in the name of so-called development, Silica City and all that nonsense, it's just what it is, nonsense. I want us to go to a tape, and then we'll get your comment on that, and that of our listeners as well.
No. We know the government is pursuing a project in the community that is called Silica City. It was conceptualized under His Excellency while he was Minister of Housing. And we've noticed recently that an excavator was put on site and work has begun. I am one of the farmers who are going to be affected by that project. We were given notices by lands and surveys to quit and move out. Many of us, some of us already would have had leases. In my instance, my lease was ready but was revoked at the Lands and Surveys Commission, and some would have been occupying. What has happened since is that all the information that we have gathered regarding this project has been basically through social media. No one at the government level has interacted with the persons affected by this project. And so we want to know from someone here when that will take place, when we have an interaction with the government. We were told that we will be relocated and compensated. We want to know when that process is going to commence and how it will move along. Because since clearing has already begun in the area, then there will soon be at my farm. Actually, the clearing has started about 1,000 feet away from where I am. So soon they might be pushing down my pens and my house and so forth on the farm. I don't know. So it's a bit of concern for many of us. It's been about 20 farmers within the exact community where they have commenced that work, and there are many more who will be affected by this.
All right, that's out in the Suicide Glendon Highway there, where the regime and their friends and cronies in the private sector, they're going there and they're bullying people there, people who have been farming there, people who have their livestock there for 30 years, 35, 40 years. They're being evicted right now. No compensation, nothing at all. Brutality again. And that gentleman was talking there the other day when Irfan Ali, the installed president, visited that area and nothing at all. The people just don't know what's going to happen. We were hearing, mind you, allegations that some businessman by the name of Alfonso or whatever, his folks are going in there and firing shots in the air, intimidating residents. And God forbid that the residents would retaliate. You know, and this is what's happening in Guyana. Mind you, the owner or owners of some 204 nightclub or whatever, Alfonso, allegations that his guys are in there firing shots in the air. What if people defend themselves? What's going to happen? Look, all the evictions in the name of development, it's not development. It's covetousness. It's fraud under the Irfan Ali's regime. There is no Silica City or whatever crap conceptualized by Irfan Ali when he was Minister of Housing. He was a lousy, incompetent Minister of Housing. Couldn't conceptualize that at all. Let's get Caesar first on that and the eviction of these people, not only from the Linden Suicide Highway area, but from Moka and other parts of Guyana.
Okay, well, Jerry, Mark, I'm going to actually start off with Moka. It's concerning. Why it's concerning is because these people have occupied the lands at Moka for such a long period in time, and it's known to be ancestral land. But the government is claiming that it's government reserves.
The corrupt, installed illegal regime. We keep addressing these people as government. This is not a government in Guyana, but go ahead.
Yeah. And, based on that, and what's concerning also is that, okay, you're running a highway. Why does the highway have to go straight all the time? You could get to Moka, you see the people there, and you say, okay, we're going to turn the highway, we're going to go around these people. So my thinking is that, the imperialists just want to straight right from Temeri straight down into the city. Hence, they're going to just trample and run over people. And then the people that they're running over, of course, black people, nobody cares. Nobody cares about us. And the PPP, they keep doing this all the time, Mark, and they're getting away with it. There is no resistance. There is no opposition. Now, I'm going to say this. The opposition just can't go down there like how they were down in Moka and speak. I think the time for speaking is past. I think Guyana is almost out of our grabs right now. Right? The time for speaking it's gone. That young lady dragging in the mud, I was looking and I was like, wait, hold on a second. Where are the men? Where are the men?
The men are, for the most part, are Bamba Mali. But it's some way taking little Guinness, little moccasin, little bears somewhere around, and they just don't give a darn any longer. They
Mark,
just will continue.
Mark, we know the Afro Guyanese villages across the East Coast. We know the villages across the East Bank. We cannot continue to allow this to happen. We have to come out. We have to occupy the highways. We have to occupy the line top. We have to shut down everything. We have come to that point.
But
Mark,
no. One second, Mr. Caesar. Because when we say these things,
right? I know this.
Then you will get your leader of the opposition and your leader of your party upset and start abusing social media people. He has become 10 times the churchman that some of us didn't want. Aubrey Norton believes that he's the biggest church guy right now. He goes to church every day of the week. It appears that way, that he wants decency and people are talking about break up the country. And the PBB is already breaking the country up.
But Mark,
PBB is already destroying the country, Aubrey Norton.
Mark, we are not destroying anybody's property. We are not hitting anybody, injuring anybody. This is peaceful protest. I am not talking about damaging anything. When the schools are burning down and all these things, that's the PPP burning down the schools.
1 second, sir. Protest is protest. We don't have to say peaceful protest. The PPP doesn't know what is peaceful protest. They are not peaceful people. Do not be fooled. Take this for an example.
Good, now we can see the rail stand off. It's just part of the action, part of the rail.
PPP stronghold areas, so we gotta stop this thing. Oh, peaceful protest. We get peaceful protest. You call a protest? We want people to be peaceful, yes. Mr. Crawford, go ahead, take a bite of this. Eviction of citizens in Moka, where they started in Glendon as well. Don't forget, right? Don't forget what has happened to this lady out in Glendon.
These people have no conscience. No conscience they don't have. None.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Take a quick bite of that, Mr. Crawford. We are joined by attorney Ms. Sheldon Washington. But your take, Mr. Crawford. Go ahead. Good night, Ms. Washington.
Good night, Ms. Washington. A few years ago, I was speaking to two well-known political people, and I told them that the PPP is going to drive the Amerindians and the black people into the forest or into the back streets of the main road. They say then, no, it won't happen. And we've seen it happen. They're going to occupy from outside of Glendon all the way up on the East Coast. Because, again, economic value, it's perceived that certain groups or a certain group should be better economically than another group. And again, this is going to happen because we don't have the unity, and many folks from one particular ethnic group are taking crumbs to become Uncle Toms to another ethnic group. And until we do not see and respect ourselves as equal to everybody else in the world, white, black, East Indian, whatever it is, we are going to see this happen. And if you're noticing, the international people who were so vocal back in 2020 without, well, what I would say they knew of the skullduggery, have suddenly lost their voices. It's because we should understand that they don't respect a certain set of people. And I don't know why there are many Guyanese who are sitting here waiting on those very people to make wrong things right. It wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
They're going to just play that puppy role and make you into a house slave.
Sit down and, oh, the U.S. gonna do this to you. Get up and do what you got to do in your country every minute, but the U.S. gonna do this. Some of these guys are fixated with U.S. gonna do this. First of all, first and foremost, the U.S. gonna say, what are you guys doing back home in Guyana? And come on. Anyways, we have the attorney with us, Attorney Sheldon Washington. Good evening. Happy New Year to you. Lots of things have happened since you last appeared on this show. People are being evicted from their lands and so forth. I'm sure you would have been reading in the news what has been transpiring out there in Guyana, particularly recently what happened in the village of Moka. As a woman, looking at this woman being evicted, being brutalized by members of the Guyana police force, all because she's standing up for her property, her land, and so forth. How does that make you feel as a woman, Miss Washington?
Mark, honestly, seeing this sort of image makes me very angry about what the Guyanese government is doing. And this sort of thing, I don't see it anywhere else in the world. There's something called eminent domain. That's a process where the government can acquire land from private property owners. But even under the British law, and even as far as I know, under the laws in Guyana, if the government wishes to acquire land from a private landowner, there's a process by which that owner has to be compensated. And the law does not permit the government to forcibly remove a person from their land, even if the land was acquired through squatting. There's a process which everybody must go through, even the government. There's constitutional rights that protects every citizen in Guyana. And I feel like the government acts as if there are no laws, there's no protection for people, and that they can do as they feel because they own the country. And that's not correct. The true owner of the lands in Guyana is the people of Guyana. They own the land. They're the rightful owner. The government only is there to help to streamline management of the country. And I'm hearing somebody bird in the background. I think that's JR's birds.
Yep.
I can hear the bird chirping as I speak.
You gotta be careful before those in the install regime take away his birds too, because they're taking away everything from everybody. You are correct about that, but in 2011 they passed a bill, I believe, to basically cut around the Constitution, to edit a part of the Constitution to say that when you live, what is it? It's called again prescriptive rights. People no longer have any legal right to prescriptive rights.
Mark,
and in
let's
2011,
no, Mark, let's be clear with what prescriptive rights are. Prescriptive rights applies to individual citizens. It doesn't apply to the government. The government have special and specific authority to act in certain ways. Prescriptive rights applies where a private individual goes and occupies a piece of land that might or might not belong to somebody, or it may belong to the government, and they live on that land for a specific period of time, pay the taxes and take care of the land. And the law says that person acquires that land by prescriptive rights. That even applies in this country, in the United States. But let's not let people in Guyana please do not confuse prescriptive rights with the rights of the government on the eminent domain to acquire private lands. And those rights by the government to do that, even if they do that, the law says they must compensate the individual. So they can't just acquire the land or forcibly take the land, and they cannot give it to a private citizen. That's not the purpose of eminent domain. It's only if the land is going to be developed for a specific purpose, governmental purpose. And I can't see I can't see that being possible, this land that they're acquiring from the woman, that they're forcibly removing from her land. For what purpose could the government be taking land, that type of land, from a private citizen? I would like to know. Do you know the answer to that question?
We already know for what purpose. To give it to their friends and cronies and corrupt individuals, drug lords, money launderers, and all these other gold smugglers and so forth. Those are the ones that they're giving the lands to, right? But the eminent domains, the prescriptive rights in terms of to apply for prescriptive rights for, as they claim, government land, it is no longer part of the law. They have gotten rid of that in 2011. But I think you are on to something. So most of our lawyers are putting their hands up in the air and said in 2011, this is what happens. So the people no longer have any legal route to go. You are saying, Attorney Washington, that they do have a legal route?
Mark, prescriptive rights is enshrined in the common law. I'm not sure about the Constitution, but as far as the lands in Guyana go, is it there that they're claiming now that the government is the owner of all the lands in Guyana? And
they're claiming that Jack Dale and Irfan and these guys who have been charged, as Irfan has been charged for 19 fraud charges, is now claiming that. These are guys who survive on squatting. Their relatives, their friends, some of their supporters survived on squatting. And now all of a sudden, squatting is illegal on the land that belongs to the people. Before you say anything else, let us go to what happened in Moka. Now, this is Moka Arcade, the village, a brief history from 1894 to 1994. Moka Arcade is unique, little village surrounded by sugar cane fields, blah, blah, blah. And they're saying that this Moka signifies coffee in Arabic. As you would know, a lot of our ancestors spoke Arabic and so forth. This is not surprising that Moka really means Arabic, is Arabic for coffee. Now, this is ancestral land. This is part of the evidence that the land in Moka belongs to the people. And these are people who pool their monies together to purchase the land right there at Moka. And there you got, nobody's challenging these goons in the PPP as to this barbaric act of evicting the people from lands that belong to them. You're the legal person here.
Belong to their ancestors. It belongs to their ancestors. And if the land belongs to our ancestors, then the government of Guyana, in order to take those lands, they'll have to use a process to do that. And even in that instance, what sort of government development are they going to do on that land? That land belongs to our ancestors of slavery. And this is a total disrespect to all Afro-Guyanese in the country, because Afro-Guyanese in particular, need to stand up and to fight the Guyanese government for that land, because the land belongs to them. It belongs to their ancestors. Their ancestors purchased that piece of land, that property, and the government can't now come and step in and say, this is our land. How did they demarcate or determine that lands that were acquired by slavery or people who were freed from slavery now belongs to them? How did they determine that? How did they decide that? What laws could they have passed to just acquire lands that belong to these people's ancestors?
That is why this needs to be challenged, whether in the High Court, in the Appellate Court, all the way to the CCJ. It needs to be challenged. This is a human rights violation upon the people. The PPP regime is trampling upon the human rights of the people. They're taking away people's land. They're currently on their way to the Linden-Soosdijk Highway, to do the same to people, to give the lands to their friends and cronies and corrupt so-called businessmen, drug lords, drug dealers, money launderers, gold smugglers. That is what they're doing. Before you say something else, Ms. Washington, let's get back to Mr. Caesar and then Mr. Crawford. Go ahead, Mr. Caesar. You want to add something else here?
Yeah, Mark. When you look at this, you see that the PPP is going to just continue just marginalizing Afro-Guyanese. They're going to, just as Mr. Crawford said, they're going to keep pushing us back. And like Ms. Washington said, we need to put up some resistance. And in my estimation, we're just taking too long. Right now, Guyana is at our fingertips, and if we continue to procrastinate, we will lose our country altogether.
Putting up a resistance is not calling for violence. It's not calling for rocking up the country. It's basically saying you're putting up a resistance to the brutality. You're standing up for your rights. That's all it's saying.
But Mark, that being said, let me just finish this. That being said, in order to put up a resistance against the PPP, it's mandatory that we have a strong opposition. But look at our opposition right now. Look at the opposition party. There's a lot of infighting, there's a lot of turmoil. This is something like Miss Washington said. We should have attorneys looking into this. This is ancestral lands. Does the government have the right to take this land from the people? These are battles we need to be fighting.
We need vibrant lawyers.
After the highway is built.
Not because something is part of the law means that it is right. Laws are made to be challenged. That is, and Miss Washington would agree, laws are made to be challenged. Not because they say, hey, the government is following the law or the regime, it is the law. It doesn't make it right. Mr. Crawford.
Mark, that's why, Mark, before you go to JR, that's why there is the separation of powers, because that's where the courts come in to review any piece of legislation and determine whether or not it violates any provision of the Constitution or it violates the rights of the citizens, period. And if you had this law, the land was given to the people, and then this law comes into place now that, it's supposed to take the rights of the people away, then somebody needs to stand up and challenge it, like you rightfully said.
Somebody should challenge it, indeed, because I think Caesar is onto something when he said that we don't really have a vibrant opposition. Right now, the opposition that we have right now, sir, 1 second. The opposition that we have right now, they're basically more concerned about dressing up and going into parliament to claim that they're debating a budget. A fraudulent budget, a budget that wouldn't do anything for their constituency. A budget that where the bulk of the monies will be going to the friends and cronies and corrupt individuals of the PPP regime. They're standing there, just want to look nice and reading from a long piece of paper. Look, if I was a parliamentarian and I go into parliament, me reading from no paper, it makes sense. Anyways, Mr. Caesar, quickly before we go to Mr. Crawford.
No, Mark, you could move on to JR.
No, make your point, sir. It's okay. Go ahead.
I can't even remember what I was going to say.
I suspect that that's the case. Mr. Crawford, let's hear you and your birds, please. Go right ahead, sir.
Mark, constitutionally, if the government wants someone's land or someone is occupying state lands, they have to compensate you properly. There should be, and I don't think there's a law where the government can bulldoze people in the name of eminent domain without proper dialogue. If someone refuses to move, and especially if it's their land or ancestral land or what inherited land, you will have to go around. We've seen in many cases around the world, if someone's stand their ground, the road will go around it. We have seen where people are being enclosed in roads. What they're doing is bullying, and the people are afraid to challenge it legally based upon the behavior of the courts. Now, I'm going to tell you this. What they're doing in Moka, it's illegal, because I'm sure nowhere in the Constitution gives any government the authority to disrespect the citizens. The Constitution protects us on whatever little we have there. So what they're doing, they're using forceful tactics to move the people out. Those lands are transported lands, my friend. That's not squatting. You can't take somebody's land away. Can I go and take somebody's car and decide to go drive it because I need to go out? No.
Before we go back to Miss Washington, some people might argue, well, the coalition was in office. Why didn't they do something to correct these things? But let me say this to you. The coalition had their own battles, internal battles for 5 years. But it wasn't easy. It's not easy to keep a coalition together for all those long 5 years, We have seen coalitions around the world, particularly in Israel and other parts, that crumble 6 months after. They don't even last more than a year or two. Outside of that, 26 years of destroying that country, that the PPP did, the destruction of that country, it's not easy to put it back together. It was like a big sore that you had to find ways to heal that sore, to patch things up. The coalition was on the right path. They have made some errors, yes. But let's get back to Moka. In 2017, 150 residents of Moka, said to have been squatting, so to speak, on state land. They were given legal documents to occupy those lands, 150 plus of them under the very coalition. So the coalition was on the path to ensure that these people and their lands and so forth were regularized. Of course, it couldn't have been done overnight, but I just thought I'd mention. However, the opposition now headed by Aubrey Norton seems to be sleeping. Nothing is being said about Moka. Nothing is being said or done about the people on the Suzdijk-Glendon Highway who are about to get their land seized by this corrupt criminal PPP regime and handed to a bunch of vagabonds in the private sector commission, so-called businessmen who are drug lords, drug dealers, money launderers, gold smugglers, and so forth. Something is definitely wrong with the opposition, but we'll get back to them. Ms. Washington, what's going through your mind as you're seeing all the corruption? Look at the road, 2 inches road. Look at this here. A lady beaten allegedly by one of these PPP hack, and he's paying her $750,000. 150,000 Guyana dollars. Look at this here. Extrajudicial killings returned again in Guyana. All of these things we're seeing under the PPP regime. Miss Washington, from a legal standpoint and from a patriotic standpoint, how does this make you feel? Again, I asked the question.
Mark, like every time I look at my beautiful country, Guyana, and I see the state that it's in, I see the state of the leadership in particular, it breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart. Because what we don't have a very strong coalition. We don't have a really strong opposition. And we have a situation where we are in leadership by force. This is not by choice. This is not the people's choice. They're being led by force, essentially. And to see a system coming back that was there before the coalition had gotten into power, Guyana has made, I would say, 2 steps forward, and then we made like 10 steps or 20 steps backward, dragged right back to a place that we shouldn't be in the first place. We made some strides towards democracy. We were doing a little bit better. The international community was looking at us and they felt a little bit relieved. But now we have been driven, all the progress we had made, it has been literally erased, because now we have a lawless society where we have people being executed without being tried. We have a system where land is being taken from people without any due compensation or any due process whatsoever. And people might say, oh, it's not their lands, it's government lands. And then they'll say, oh, we don't have prescriptive rights anymore. But the thing is, you got to realize that even if people attempt to change the laws, there's something called common law, and common law it's in operation through practice. And for many, many decades, we've had a system in Guyana where people would just take lands and occupy it. And by right, that tradition if you know how jurisprudence evolved, that tradition would have become law because we have a system that is unique to us in the Caribbean. I don't know if there's any other Caribbean country has this sort of system where we have all this land and people usually just take a piece of land, occupy it, and then it becomes theirs. And now we're being driven into something that is strange, that is new to Guyanese people. We're not used to the government just driving people off of lands that they own and just dragging them, treating them like you're not human. We don't care about you. We have no
kind of people, certain kind of people only.
Yeah, we don't have no consideration for you. You're not even humans because you're Afro-Guyanese. So we want to drive you from our land. But the land is the people's land. Those lands, a lot of those lands were given to our ancestors, to ancestors of slavery, not to anybody else. And to have the racist regime that we have in place right now just step on the scene and engage in this lawless type of behavior.
They don't know how it came. They never worked for it.
It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the Guyanese people, Guyanese people. And this is why I'm saying that every single Guyanese, if you want to see justice, if you want to see right, if you want to see righteousness, you need to stand with your Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters. Whether you be Indian or whatever you be, you need to stand up with your Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters for what is right, what is just. You cannot
100%.
stand by. You cannot stand by idly and allow a government to drive Afro-Guyanese off of their land by force. Look at this. By force. You don't belong there, so we're going to drive you, going to leave you homeless.
Mind you, look at how these guys live. Look at Irfan Ali when he was a minister of housing. Take a look at this. Look at the house he got from Gaisuko. Look at his pool house, so to speak. Pool house. Look at it. This is not propaganda. Yeah. Then take a look at Pradoville 1. All of this is Jack Deer's first house. First house. He sold for close to $1 million to a guy named Ernie Ross from Trinidad and Tobago. This is Pradoville 1. Pradoville 1, all of those houses occupied by current ministers of the regime and former ministers of the regime and their friends and concubines. This particular area was state land. The evicted persons opposite this land evicted them. This guy was one of them, a guy by the name of Civic, and lots of others evicted them. I remember Civic because Civic took his family. His family has been divided since then. He is a hurt man. And if he's watching this program, good evening to you, Civic. Took his mattress in front of Jack Deer's house when he first occupied the house that is now owned by Rusal in Queenstown. This man and his family were locked up at Alberton Police Station for standing up, all because Jack Deer and his cronies stole the land, stole the land that they were on for all those years, and this is what they did. It is about a profit for these guys. And then after Pradoville land, this house was sold to Ernie Ross. Guess what? Jack Deer moved now to another plantation. Who is going to go and take away and bulldoze these houses and build roads and highways? Say we want to expand the highway, the Rupert Craig Highway. Who is going to do it? This was supposedly stolen. This land was stolen from some folks out there in Plaisance, ancestral land by Jack Deer and his cronies. So these people have no moral authority to talk about squatting, who is squatting and who is not squatting. And this is what Irfan said back then. Former PPP Minister Irfan Ali, this is when he was arrested. But we were looking at another statement when he spoke about regularizing and people should not occupy state land. Squatters, they're going to get rid of squatters. These people are squatters. They survived, them and their generation survived through squatting. But now they're going into predominantly African communities. And guess what? Treating these people worse than how those who were enslaved people were treated 200-300 years ago. Sad. Very, very sad. Something has to happen with regards to standing up in the right and legal way. Whether you can stand up in court, you can challenge these people. They need to be challenged. The lawyers, some of them in the opposition, they go, they take a quick picture, and that is all. They're picture takers, so to speak. They do nothing else. Most of them. Well, I put aside Roysdale Ford. I give him credit because Roysdale seemed to have been challenging the PPP. So kudos to Roysdale. All the other lawyers in the coalition, in the PNC or whatever it is, well, you get a young man, Darren Wade. I haven't been hearing much about him. Outside of that, the other lawyers are like they're kunu-munus. They're picture takers. That's what they are. Mr. Crawford, please, your closing remarks, sir. My blood pressure. Your closing remarks, sir.
Mark, on this situation that's going on here, for us to have an instant change in the behavior of this current administration until election, the people need to be unified, because after the African descendants have been brutalized, they're going to be moved and they're going to brutalize their own East Indian supporters, because this administration works on an inner circle basis, a pyramid form of behavior. And we as a nation, we need to see that after our neighbors have been brutalized, it's going to be us. And if we don't come together and stop this nonsense now, it's going to be bloodshed down the road. Somewhere along the line, somebody is going to trip, and a lot of people are going to get hurt. And I've been saying this for 2 years. Blood is going to run on our streets. You know, as a government, you don't own anything. You're there to take care of the country's interests. The lands, the Constitution affords us certain benefits as natural born citizens. You cannot brutalize people and expect no resistance. Somebody is going to trip off, and we're going to wake up one morning and see a lot of people being hurt. This administration, I don't know what is so hard for any government of this country to treat every single citizen with due respect across the board. It is so easy for them
like that.
to respect all the citizens.
It's not going to
happen.
And
nobody would take you out. But it is a natural bad-mindedness and evilness that you have to ridicule one particular ethnic group for whatever means. What is the reason for you to discriminate against a particular group? Do your duty as a government official across the board. And I'm sure if this government treats all its citizens across the board with proper respect and provided proper goods and services, who is going to vote them out of office? Nobody.
You know,
the Moka people, if you want to pass a road in that particular area, sit and talk with the people. Give them what they deserve. I was living in Florida. There was some homes in a road.
We can't expect that from these bandits.
There were some homes were in the road.
We cannot.
The people were properly compensated.
We cannot expect any better from these bandits in the PPP. It is not going to happen.
Well, then the people need to come out.
These bandits in the PPP are not going to wake up tomorrow and start respecting people.
Well, if somebody's going to bulldoze, you, then you got to bulldoze them.
These bandits are not going to respect people. Thank you for that closing remark. Let's go to Mr. Caesar. Again, I repeat, Mr. Crawford, these bandits in the PPP are not going to wake up tomorrow morning and respect citizens. They're not going to go into Moka and apologize to the people there. They're not going to go to Glendon and apologize to the people. They're not going to go to Lincoln Lewis and his family out there and apologize to what they attempted to do to Lincoln's land, his ancestral land that Anil Nandalal told the people, go and squat, go and squat. Now they're saying squatting is illegal, but it was legal when Anil was telling the people, go and occupy the land. Go, man, you go. Land that doesn't belong to them. Mr. Caesar, your closing remarks, please, sir.
So, Mark, I'm not going to try to elaborate and tell the government how they should treat all Guyanese, because the vision of the government is not to treat Afro-Guyanese the way that they treat the individuals who are quote-unquote part of the one Guyana. So I'm going to just say that what transpired after the 2020 election have really fractured the hearts of many of the coalition supporters. We now have an opposition who is divided, and there's a lot of infighting. I'm going to call on the members of the opposition, and I'm going to ask that they kindly put aside their egos and come together and work for the benefit of the people. You were placed there to represent that other half of Guyana that the PPP is not including. Going forward, the leader of the opposition, he needs to be more intent. He needs to show more intent with exactly what his vision for the party is. And the MPs, we need to stop hearing about Harmonites and Grangenites. That's nonsense. We all need to come on one accord, support the leader, and let's push this thing forward. I say this, Mark, to say that there's a lot of Guyanese people who is sitting there and thinking that the United States and the EU and the ABC countries and all these people is going to come in and it's going to rescue them. It's not going to happen. The interests of all these countries are being served right now. So nobody's going to try to remove this regime. It's upon the people of Guyana to step up and claim their country.
All right.
And that all starts with the opposition being strong, being proactive, and challenging this regime.
Well said indeed. The leader has to take that position to embrace the people. And the leadership of there's no coalition right now. Let's not be fooled. The leadership of the PNC needs to go out there and be more vibrant in confronting this installed illegal PPP regime. More vibrant in every way. Go out there. And if it is lacking, then the people have a right to call out the leadership. It's not the other way around where people got to support the leadership. If people see that there are ways that they want to support, and if they see strong leadership, trust me, people know strong leaders. People know good leaders when they see good leaders. And regardless of what it is, people will do any and everything to support a strong leader, and a good leader, a visionary. Burnham, we speak of that and we close off. And there were others too. Sadly, we're not seeing much of that today. Miss Washington, your closing remarks, please, ma'am.
I want to tell my Guyanese brothers and sisters that the laws evolve through custom. And one of the things that has made the United States a great country is the braveness of some of the citizens. When they see something that is happening that they know that is blatantly wrong, they challenge it. This country is very litigious. People approach the judicial system so often. Every time they're wrong, they go to the court. So I want to tell you, you have the same rights that we have in this country to approach the court when you see something that doesn't look right. And you have to learn to start challenging things. If you see the government implement a law to take away your right, challenge them. Look to your constitution. Look to your common law. We have something in Guyana called common law, and our common law was evolved through customs. And we have a custom in Guyana where we squat. We take lands and we squat. And you should not take it lightly and believe that the government has the right to take that practice, that common law right, away from you by codifying it in statute. Challenge that statute. Go to court and challenge it based on the Constitution. Challenge it. Challenge it based on the common law. Challenge it based on the practices in Guyana. Not everything that the government do is right. Sometimes it's blatantly wrong, but because there's no brave person to get up and to challenge it, it goes unchecked. Start putting checks and balances on your government. Start going to court. Take the men to court. I don't care if 20, 1,000, 1,000,000 Guyanese. Just start filing claims against the government. File claims for wrongful eviction. File claims for wrongful. They take your lands wrongfully, and don't care. It doesn't matter if there's eminent domain. Eminent domain still maintains that the land must be used for a public benefit, and if you see it's not being used for that purpose, as in the case where Mark showed you clearly that lands was taken by Bar Jagdio and then sold, and he pocketed that money. That couldn't be for a public good or any public purpose. You need to start getting up and challenging the laws in Guyana. Don't be afraid. We have also a system just like we have in the United States and Guyana, where you can challenge things pro se. You can go look at the books, read the laws for yourself, try to understand it, consult with an attorney, and try to start doing things pro se. If it's too expensive to pay an attorney, try doing it pro se. Pro se means you do it on your own. You can read, you can write. Try doing that and challenge. I encourage you to challenge the Guyanese government as many times in different ways as you can. Approach the High Court as many times as you think is possible. File appeals, do whatever, but utilize the judicial system if you don't have any other way to challenge them. Having said that, I want to say, my Guyanese brother and sister, I will keep advocating for you from this distance where I'm at. I will keep speaking up when I see that there's wrong. Okay, and again, my name is Sheldon Washington. For those of you who don't know, I want to say to a lot of Mark fans here tonight, thank you so much for your love and support. Some of you call me and then you always talk about Mark, but I want to thank you guys so much. I love you guys so much. You're the greatest. Thanks for all the calls that you guys have been giving, and those of you who support my business. Thank you and good night, everyone.
We will run that ad, but it seems as though coming to the end of the show, we get a little bit of comedy here. We get Gokaran Hansraj is saying no squatting. Gokaran Hansraj is saying no squatting. And a lot of people got their properties, got their lands through what, Mr. Crawford? Your dad has dealt with a lot of squatters and legalized them.
Well,
squatting, right?
Squatting, but the prescriptive right, like Miss Washington said, she correctly said it, it's private, it's a piece of land, but Moka is not, the government cannot go there through prescription, through eminent domain via proper discussion. And if someone who is there do not want to take an offer, you cannot interfere with the people. And it, like she said, rightfully said, it must be for public benefit. You can run a road through, but you can't put somebody else on the side of the road that you take me off from, because the value of the land goes up, 20-fold. That is what they're doing.
And look at Gawker and Hansraj. How you think he got his house over where he used to live there? Squatting. Squatters. Imagine squatters are now talking about no squatting. Squatters. Then there's another one. I got to go to him before we go, because I know we've had a long day, but we've got to go to another one quickly. You got to put some of these guys in the place. Imagine a squatter. Squatter. Then look at this here now. This guy, Pops Mohammed, right? Burnham never apologized to the people of Guyana. Like, everyone forgot the suffering we all went through during his days in office. Rice flour? Look at these sort of statements coming from these individuals. What suffering? What suffering? Who got rich under Burnham times? The rice flour that these guys are talking about, they believe that only one set of people in Guyana used to use flour for make roti, and that Burnham banned flour as a result to attack our Indian brothers and sisters and don't allow them to make roti. What about people who like bread? What about people who like bake? What about people who like, what is it? You put a stuff inside soup?
Dumpling.
Dumpling.
You know
Don't
about
say.
people who like chocolate and all these things. But their thing is, Burnham ban flour to stop our Indian brothers and sisters from eating roti. How dare
Like that was
Burnham,
a
right?
racist move. Like
Well,
it was focused only on one group. It was not. It wasn't
but,
targeting any
but
particular group.
the restriction, not the banning of those items, the restriction, and I want Pops Mohammed to get this, the restriction of those items were done at a particular period of time, and it was supported. It was supported by Chedi Jagan, the then opposition leader. So Chedi Jagan supported the restriction of flour. So it is, if you're going to say that Burnham make the people suffer, said Jagan agreed, and Jagan make the people suffer too. So for this here, we give this guy what is called our national award right here on 107.1 FM. 107.1 FM. This guy, Pops Mohammed, gets, you know what? The national award. This goes to you, Pops. You just had to get that national award. You just had to get that at all. And with that said, hey, guess what? Thanks to you guys for being on with us for almost an hour and a half. Thanks to all our listeners as well. And Miss Washington and your law firm. Quick question. Do you practice in Guyana?
Mark, no, only to a very limited extent. If I do anything, which I've done last year, the case has to have some sort of relationship to somebody in this country. But I would not take a case that is exclusively in Guyana.
Somebody's got to take a case to represent those people who have been evicted from their lands, man. I got to call Roysdale Ford and ask, what is he doing? Challenge these people. Forget about the other lawyers.
Mark, if we did electronic filing exclusively, I definitely would have done that, because I feel like squatting is customary and it's unique to our jurisprudence. And no government could take that away from Guyanese. It cannot be taken away by saying that prescriptive title has been abolished. No, you cannot take it. It's customary. That's what we do.
Challenge it.
Somebody has to challenge that.
Aubrey Norton, I hope you're watching. Somebody's got to challenge it. Roysdale Ford, I know you've been doing your thing. You guys got to challenge this, right? I don't know, but you got to challenge these Pakus in office.
So, Mark, there's a clever way around that, because if they call it prescriptive title, right, we call it squatting. We squat by taking land, any land that's available, and we live on it. And it has to be a way around any type of law the government tried to put blockage or hindrances in the people's way. Oh, that's how jurisprudence evolves. And people have got to learn to start challenging things and don't let it go for what the government calls it. It could be challenged. That's how this country thrives, right? Because every single thing, people go to the court in the United States. They go to the court and they challenge
a bunch of bullies, a bunch of convicts, a bunch of bandits running that country right now. Drug lords, money launderers. Most of them are part of the private sector commission, and most of them are part of the government. But I tell you what, Miss Washington, we can go on and on and on. For those of you who, Mr. Crawford, what's going on with those birds? People are asking, you selling birds now? You're in the birds business? What's going on? Advertise a little bit about your birds to people who want to buy birds.
Yeah, you can forward my numbers.
Oh, so you are selling birds?
Yes, I am.
Good. That's a good business.
Jay, you could export them here to the U.S.?
It's a long process, and I don't want to go through that.
I know a guy from Queens had about 5 birds in a curler. I'm not going to call Gopal's name. I'm not going to call Gopal at all. But Mr. Crawford, we're glad that you're selling birds. And then, sorry about that, we have an accountant too. What's going on?
I expect that Mr. Crawford will be bringing in a lot of revenue, so I don't mind,
Yeah, got you. And then we have our lawyer here as well. But for all of you guys around Guyana, around the world, wherever you are, good evening and thank you so much. And I I see we have Reverend Frost. Good evening to you too as well, and to all of our folks around the world. Keep praying for Guyana. They have a criminal government that is abusing the rights of the citizens of the country, mainly citizens of African descent. They're bulldozing their lands. They're evicting them. Right now, they're probably thinking of going into those people farmlands on the Linden-Soesdijk Highway with their cronies and their drug lord friends to fire shots in the air and possibly fire shots wherever else. Be awoke, people. I'll see you guys tomorrow, same place, same time. Thank you, Ms. Washington, and thank you, Mr. Crawford. Thank you, Mr. Caesar. And to all of you, God bless you all. Until.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mark.
Good night.
Good night.
So, this is attorney Sheldon Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Source. Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Sujaro?
So my relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place. Yeah.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root. Mark Benschop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benschop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benschop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benschop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benschop, straight up from the root.